everybody, and welcome to a blog named Hero. Today I'm going to be making a card using this Hero Arts butterfly and flower set with this Oh Happy Day set from Avery L. We're doing a collaboration this month with Avery L, which is very exciting because I love Avery L. And also our challenge theme this month is rainbow, which just makes me happy. I love making rainbow cards. So what I decided to do for this one is I was going to white emboss some of the butterflies onto some vellum, which I've got here in my Misty. So I'm going to stamp a couple of those, and so with Versamark, and then pour some white embossing powder from Hero Arts onto that stamped image. And then I will be heat embossing that. And you can see I'm doing that right now. Just going to pour some Hero Arts white embossing powder onto the top and heat it up with my heat tool. Now, the very important thing about embossing onto vellum is you have to get your heat gun hot before you bring it to the vellum, because the vellum will melt otherwise. If you spend way too much time with the heat on the vellum, it'll melt and it'll warp. So the hotter you get your heat gun, the less time you have to have the heat on the vellum, so the less hot the vellum will get overall. It's kind of counterintuitive. You have to get your heat gun extra hot to prevent the vellum from melting, but hey, it works. So here's my second butterfly, but I wanted to do 4 butterflies. So what I'm doing now is I'm just stamping onto some Inkadinkado stamping mask paper, just with some black ink, and it doesn't really matter what these ones look like as long as I can see the outline, because I'm going to be fussy cutting these out to create my masks. So here I'm doing that, and once I've done that, I'll be able to place those masks on top of the 2 butterflies that I've already stamped on this vellum, and stamp the other 2 butterflies so they'll look like they're behind the other 2. Not that this is going to be a very dimensional card. It's not like some of the butterflies are going to look significantly in shadow or anything like that. But yeah, I didn't want them overlapping. So yep, masking is the way. So here I'm just finishing off this stamping, then finishing off the heat embossing, and that is all done. So to add colour to this, what I wanted to do is have the colour shining through from behind. So I've got some distress inks. I've got, what have I got? Picked raspberry, dried marigold, mustard seed, twisted citron, what's that? Salty ocean, and wilted violet. So that makes a really nice rainbow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use some ink blending tools to create a rainbow on this card. Now, I'm not going to have it extend across the whole card. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space, because I'm a Cas girl at heart. I have to have at least some white space there. And yeah, I'm just going to go all the way up the card in this rainbow. Now, you can see I'm putting on lots of ink now, and some people would go, oh my god, look at that, that's terrible, because I'm not really getting good sort of blending out and fading out to white. But the thing is that most of this is going to be covered by the vellum, and I wanted to get some intense colour onto that cardstock so it would shine through the vellum. So that's what I've done. But when I put this on top, I looked at it and thought, oh, that's not shining through as much as I wanted. So what I've done is I've grabbed some Copic markers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour underneath on the back side of the vellum with the Copic markers to match the colour of the distress ink that's already on the cardstock. So it's going to look like the colour is shining through, particularly where those butterflies are, and not so much where the rest of the vellum is. And I really like this look. I was really pleased with how it turned out when I finished it. So the trick here was to try and get a little bit of blending of the Copics. Now, Copics are not really designed to blend very well on vellum, I'm telling you now. But that didn't really matter. As long as I got a little bit of a blend between the colours, it didn't matter. Now, I don't know if you noticed right here is I've actually coloured over a bit where there's no butterfly. It's actually space in between the two butterflies, and I only realised this after I'd completely finished the card. But you'll keep it a secret, won't you? Just between you and me. Shh. So, anyway, so I've done the same thing with the sequence of colours. I actually added an extra blue because when I'd put the Salty Ocean and the Wilted Violet onto the cardstock, where they blended, I got a really nice deep blue, so I added a nice deep blue in the Copics onto the back. So now to the sentiment, and I love this font from Avery L. These stamp sets, there's a couple of stamp sets with very similar font, and I just adore them. So what I thought I'd do is get out some black cardstock and white heat emboss. Now black shows up every single little dot of white embossing powder, so it's a really good idea to use your some kind of embossing buddy, or I'm using my Eco Success powder tool to get some powder down there so that your embossing powder only sticks where your ink is and not everywhere else. So here I've added my embossing powder, I'm heating it up, and when that's done I will just use my fingers to rub away that powder from my powder tool. Now I'm going to cut it down. So I want it relatively thin, so I trimmed it fairly close to the actual sentiment because I didn't want to cover up any of my beautiful colour. Now at this point I'd actually originally planned to have that vellum piece right in the middle of the card, but I was just fiddling around and I actually had a little bit of a spot of sort of, I think it was the pink ink, right in the middle of the yellow, and it's right on the far left-hand side of the card, and it just bugged me. And then when I was playing around with this sentiment, I thought I could put that panel right over on the left, and that would cover up a little splodge of ink, and I really liked the way it looked. Even though it wasn't the way I planned it, always happens with me cards. I sort of have something in my mind, and while I'm doing it, something changes and I end up liking it even better. So I put my panel over, which gives me more white space, which makes my little Kaz heart very happy. So I've added some dimensional adhesive, some foam tape underneath the sentiment, but I'm only sticking it down to the vellum, so I'm trying not to stick it to the card just yet because I need a way to actually adhere this vellum to the card where you can't see the adhesive. So what I'm going to do is stick the sentiment down, so that's done, turn it over and put a whole of adhesive directly underneath that sentiment strip and underneath that foam adhesive. But then I'm going to add some little black enamel dots just to sort of tie in with the black strip from the sentiment, but also to provide me with some little spots where I can add some adhesive so it won't show up. So I've just added 2 sort of in the left hand side and 3 in the bottom right, just around the sentiment, not too far away from the sentiment, and then I can put some of this multimedia matte little dots underneath each one, and then I thought, I'll just put a little strip of it in the middle of each of those butterflies, so I got a bit of adhesive a little bit higher up on that vellum piece so that it wouldn't sort of flap around in the wind. Alright, so I'm just holding that down, making sure it's well adhered, and I thought I was done. Now does this sound familiar? I do this all the time. I think, oh, I'm done, that's excellent, I've finished. Then I go, need something else, what does it need? You guessed it, Wink of Stella. So I just yanked out my Wink of Stella pen and added a liberal dose of Wink of Stella across all of those 4 butterflies. And then I was happy with it because it had a rainbow and it had glimmer. So this makes me happy. So thank you very much for visiting. You can find all the supplies in my description on a blog named Hero. Thanks for visiting. I'll see you next time. Bye.